Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Martin sat alone in the Quartermain living room, the heavy tick of the grandfather clock slicing through the silence. His hands trembled slightly as he poured himself a drink, his mind spinning with the truth he'd been carrying for weeks. The bourbon burned going down, but not nearly as much as the guilt that clawed at his conscience. Tracy Quartermain entered the room just as Martin set his glass down a little too hard. She eyed him suspiciously, arms crossed, her tone sharp as ever. "You look like a man about to confess to a crime, Martin," she said dryly. Martin chuckled nervously, his usual southern charm faltering. "Well, Tracy, you're not far off." Tracy frowned, walking closer. "What's that supposed to mean? Don't tell me you're mixed up in something shady again. Lord knows this family doesn't need another scandal." Martin looked up at her, his eyes filled with regret. "It's not about me this time. It's about Ronnie." The name alone made Tracy pause. She tilted her head, her expression tightening. "Ronnie? You mean Ronnie Dean? The woman hanging around you like a bad rash lately?" Martin hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, her. Only, her name's not really Ronnie Dean." Tracy blinked, her brow furrowing. "Excuse me? What kind of nonsense are you spouting now?" Martin took a deep breath, his voice low and heavy. "Her real name is Veronica Delane. She's not who she says she is, Tracy. She's been lying to all of us, especially me." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth. "I didn't see it at first. I thought she was just some woman looking to get a little attention, maybe someone down on her luck. But I found out things that make me sick to my stomach." Tracy's sharp eyes followed him closely. "You're saying this woman's been conning you? Or is she after something bigger?" Martin laughed bitterly. "You could say both. She came into my life pretending to be someone from out of town, claiming she wanted legal advice. But every move she made after that, it was calculated. She knew things about me she shouldn't. About my cases. About my connection to the Quartermains." Tracy's expression hardened, her mind already racing. "So what exactly is her game, Martin? Money? Power? Or is she digging for something deeper?" He stopped pacing and faced her. "She's after you, Tracy. You and your family." The words dropped like a bomb. Tracy froze, her face draining of color. "What did you just say?" Martin nodded grimly. "I didn't believe it at first, but she's been targeting the Quartermains for months. She's been digging into ELQ records, your personal finances, everything. I think she's connected to someone with an axe to grind against this family." Tracy took a step back, anger replacing her shock. "Are you telling me that you brought this woman into our lives? Into my home? My family's business?" Her voice rose, sharp and cold. Martin flinched. "I didn't know who she was at first, Tracy. I swear to you, if I had, I would have cut ties the moment she showed up. But she played me like a fiddle. She used my feelings against me." Tracy narrowed her eyes, sensing the deeper meaning behind his words. "Feelings? Don't tell me you actually fell for her." Martin looked away, his silence answering for him. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Tracy groaned. "You let this woman wrap you around her finger, and now you're standing here telling me she's been trying to sabotage my family? You realize how ridiculous that sounds, right?" Martin's voice cracked slightly. "It's the truth, Tracy. She came to Port Charles under orders from someone else. I don't know who yet, but I have a pretty good idea." Tracy folded her arms, her tone laced with impatience. "Then enlighten me, counselor. Who's pulling her strings?" Martin hesitated, rubbing his temples. "It's someone connected to Valentine Cassadine." Tracy's eyes went wide. "Valentine? Oh, you have got to be kidding me." That man has had his claws in ELQ for years, and you're saying he sent this Veronica woman after me? Martin nodded slowly. Not directly. I think it's more complicated than that. Ronnie, or Veronica, was once involved with someone in the Casadena orbit. She's been trying to settle old debts, and she thought taking something from ELQ would be her ticket out. Tracy's face hardened into the familiar Quartermain resolve. Well, she picked the wrong family to mess with. She moved toward the bar cart and poured herself a stiff drink, her hands shaking slightly though she hid it well. So what are we going to do about it? Martin sighed, sinking into the nearest chair. That's just it, Tracy. I already confronted her. She denied it at first, but when I pressed her, she broke down. She admitted everything. Tracy's tone sharpened. Then why is she still walking around town instead of being dragged out by the PCPD? Martin's eyes were full of shame. Because I didn't turn her in. I couldn't. Not yet. Tracy stared at him in disbelief. You couldn't? After everything you just told me? Martin, what in the devil's name are you thinking? He met her gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. Because she's pregnant. The words froze Tracy mid-breath. Pregnant, she repeated, almost whispering. And let me guess, it's yours. Martin swallowed hard. She says it is. I don't know if I believe her, but I couldn't take the chance of ruining her life without being sure. Tracy shook her head in disbelief, her sarcasm cutting like a blade. Oh, Martin, you really have outdone yourself this time. You let a woman infiltrate your life, use you for access to my family's company, and now you're telling me she might be carrying your child? You have the worst taste in women I've ever seen. Martin stood abruptly, his voice rising. You think I don't know that? You think I'm proud of it? I made a mistake, Tracy. I trusted the wrong person, and now it's all blowing up in my face. Tracy stared at him for a long moment, the fury in her eyes tempered only by the faintest glimmer of pity. You've got to fix this, Martin. Whatever you've done, whatever you're hiding, it's time to come clean. If this Veronica woman is working against ELQ, she's not just a threat to you, she's a threat to all of us. Martin nodded slowly. That's why I came to you first. I thought you deserved to know the truth before it got out. Tracy's voice was cold but steady. It already has the potential to get out, Martin. And when it does, it won't just be your reputation on the line. It'll be mine. And I will not have this family dragged through the mud because you couldn't keep your heart, or your mouth, shut. He looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, Tracy. I'll fix it. I promise. Tracy scoffed. You'd better. Because if you don't, I'll handle it myself, and trust me, my way won't be pretty. Martin sighed, defeated. I know. That's why I told you now, before it's too late. Tracy's sharp tone softened just a fraction. You'd better hope it's not already too late. The clock struck again, echoing through the mansion. The silence stretched between them, thick and uneasy. Martin turned toward the window, watching the lights of Port Charles flicker in the distance. You know, I thought I was done with secrets, he murmured. But they always seem to find me. Tracy took a long sip of her drink. Welcome to Port Charles. Secrets are the town's favorite currency. Later that evening, Martin left the Quartermain mansion, his mind heavy with what came next. He knew Veronica wouldn't stay quiet for long. If she realized he'd told Tracy, there'd be hell to pay. But for now, the truth was out, and there was no turning back. The next day, Tracy made a call to Brooke Lynn, her voice brisk and commanding. I need you to dig into someone named Veronica Delane, she said. And do it quietly. I want to know everything, past, present, and who she's working for. Brooke Lynn hesitated. Should I loop in Chase? Tracy's tone was sharp. Not yet. The fewer people who know, the better. This is a family matter until I say otherwise. Meanwhile, Martin met Ronnie in the park, his expression tense. She smiled at him sweetly, but he could see the mask now. "You told her, didn't you?" she said quietly. Martin's stomach dropped. "How did you?" she smirked. "You're not the only one who knows how to get information." He stepped closer, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "Why did you lie to me? Why did you drag me into this mess?" Ronnie's smile faded. "Because I had no choice." "You think I wanted to? You think I enjoy playing the bad guy?" Martin shook his head. "You could have told me the truth from the start. I might have helped you." She laughed bitterly. "No, you wouldn't have. You would have walked away the second you found out who I really am." Martin's heart ached. "Try me." Ronnie looked away, her eyes filling with tears. "I was supposed to steal something from ELQ. Documents. Proof of certain transfers. Valentine promised me money, enough to disappear for good. But when I met you, I started to question everything. I didn't expect to fall for you." Martin's eyes softened, but his voice stayed firm. "Then stop this now. Tell me everything. We can fix it together." Ronnie shook her head slowly. "It's too late, Martin. You've already told Tracy. And once she's involved, there's no fixing anything." She turned to walk away, but Martin grabbed her hand. "Ronnie, please. Don't make this worse." She looked at him with a sad smile. "You already have." As she walked off, Martin stood there, watching the woman who had just turned his world upside down disappear into the night. Back at the Quartermain mansion, Tracy looked out her window, her expression unreadable. She picked up her phone, dialing a number she hadn't called in years. "Robert? It's Tracy Quartermain. I've got a situation. And I think you're going to want to hear this." The storm brewing over Port Charles had only just begun, and Martin's confession was just the first crack in a much bigger secret, one that could tear apart more than just the Quartermain family if the truth ever came out. The autumn leaves swirled outside the Quartermain mansion, their golden hues catching the late afternoon light filtering through the tall windows of the living room. Martin Gray stood by the fireplace, his fingers tracing the edge of a crystal decanter, his usual polished demeanor fraying at the edges. His gray suit was impeccable, but his eyes betrayed a storm brewing within. Across the room, Tracy Quartermain sat in a high-backed chair, her sharp gaze dissecting him as she sipped her martini. The air was thick with tension, the kind that Port Charles thrived on, where secrets were currency and trust was a rare commodity. "Martin, you've been pacing like a caged animal for the last 10 minutes, Tracy said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Either spit it out or pour me another drink. I'm not here for amateur theatrics." Martin's lips twitched, a nervous smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Tracy, this isn't easy. What I'm about to tell you, it's going to change everything." Tracy raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "In Port Charles, everything changes every other Tuesday. You'll have to do better than that." He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The confession was a weight he'd carried for months, a secret that had gnawed at him since Ronnie first appeared in town. Ronnie, enigmatic, charming, and dangerously magnetic, had arrived in Port Charles 6 months ago, claiming to be a traveling musician with no ties to anyone. But Martin knew better. He knew the truth about Ronnie's identity, a truth so explosive it could unravel the fragile alliances holding the Quartermain and Corinthos families together. It had all started at the Metro Court, where Martin had first met Ronnie. The young man, with his tousled dark hair and piercing green eyes, had been playing a soulful tune on the piano in the lounge, drawing a small crowd. Carly Corinthos, ever the businesswoman, had offered him a regular gig, impressed by his talent and the way he seemed to charm everyone around him. But Martin had noticed something else, a fleeting glance Ronnie had thrown his way, a look that said, "I know you know." And Martin did know. He'd seen the documents, the birth certificate, the letters hidden in a safe deposit box in New York. Ronnie wasn't just a drifter. He was Edward Quartermain's grandson, a secret heir born from a long-buried scandal. Martin had stumbled upon the truth by accident, while handling legal affairs for the Quartermain estate. A forgotten file, tucked away in a dusty law office, revealed that Edward had fathered a child out of wedlock decades ago, during a brief affair with a woman named Evelyn Hart. Evelyn had disappeared, raising the child, Ronald Hart, now known as Ronnie, in obscurity. But Ronnie had returned to Port Charles, and Martin suspected he wasn't here by chance. The question was, did Ronnie know his own lineage, or was he an unwitting pawn in a larger game? Martin, Tracy snapped, pulling him back to the present. If you're going to stand there staring into the fire like some brooding poet, I'm leaving. I have a board meeting at ELQ in an hour. He turned to face her, his resolve hardening. Tracy, it's about Ronnie. Her eyes narrowed. The piano player? What, is he stealing silverware from the Metro Court? Or did he charm his way into Carly's bed already? No, Martin said, his voice low. It's bigger than that. Ronnie isn't who he says he is. Tracy set her glass down, her interest piqued. Go on. Martin hesitated, knowing there was no turning back once the words left his mouth. Ronnie is a quartermain. Edward's grandson, to be precise. The silence that followed was deafening. Tracy's face froze, her mind clearly racing to process the bombshell. Edward's grandson, she repeated, her voice dangerously calm. And you're just telling me this now? How long have you known, Martin? 3 months, he admitted, wincing as her expression darkened. I found out when I was reviewing some old estate documents. There was a birth certificate, letters, it's all legitimate, Tracy. Ronnie's mother was Evelyn Hart, Edward's mistress in the late 70s. Tracy stood, her movements deliberate, like a predator sizing up its prey. And you kept this from me? From the family? Do you have any idea what this means? Another heir crawling out of the woodwork could destabilize ELQ, the estate, everything. I know, Martin said, raising his hands defensively. That's why I didn't say anything at first. I needed to be sure. I've been watching Ronnie, trying to figure out what he wants. He hasn't made any moves to claim his inheritance, but... Tracy pressed, stepping closer. But he's been asking questions, Martin said. About the quartermains, about Edward. He's been seen with Ned, with Michael, even with Laura. I think he's piecing it together. Tracy's mind was already spinning, calculating the implications. Another quartermain heir meant a potential shift in power at ELQ, not to mention the personal fallout. Ned would be furious, Michael would feel threatened, and Monica, God help them all, would be heartbroken to learn Edward had kept such a secret. And then there was the Corinthos family. If Ronnie got too close to Carly or Sonny, the delicate truce between the families could collapse. Does he know? Tracy asked, her voice sharp. Does Ronnie know he's a quartermain? Martin shook his head. I don't think so. Not yet. But he's smart, Tracy. Too smart. He's been digging, and it's only a matter of time before he finds out. That's why I'm telling you now. We need to decide what to do before he does. Tracy paced, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. And why should I trust you, Martin? You've sat on this for months. For all I know, you're playing your own game here. I'm not, he said earnestly. I'm telling you because you're the only one who can handle this. Ned's too emotional, Monica's too sentimental, and Michael, well, he's too Corinthos. You're the one who can protect the family. Tracy stopped, studying him. Flattery won't get you out of this, but it's a start. So, what's your plan? Or did you just dump this in my lap and expect me to clean up your mess? Martin swallowed hard. We need to confront Ronnie. Quietly. Find out what he knows, what he wants. If he's after money or power, we can control the narrative. If he's innocent, we protect him. Protect him? Tracy scoffed. He's a walking liability. If Sonny gets wind of this, or worse, if Valentine Cassadine finds out, we're looking at a war. And don't even get me started on what Alexis will do with this kind of gossip. The mention of Alexis made Martin flinch. His ex-wife had a knack for sniffing out secrets, and if she caught even a whiff of this, it would be front-page news at the Invader. "That's why we need to act fast," he said. "We bring Ronnie in, we talk to him. We make him an offer, money, a job, whatever it takes to keep him quiet." Tracy's lips curled into a wry smile. "You're learning, Martin. But you're still too soft. If Ronnie's a threat, we don't negotiate. We neutralize." Martin's stomach churned at the implication. Tracy's ruthlessness was legendary, but he hadn't expected her to go that far. "Tracy, he's family. Your family. Don't lecture me about family," she snapped. "Family is why we're in this mess. Edward's indiscretions, Lila's blind devotion, my idiot brothers, don't talk to me about family. Talk to me about solutions." Before Martin could respond, the door to the living room swung open, and Ned Quartermain strode in, his face a mask of frustration. "Tracy, we need to talk about the ELQ merger." "I just got off the phone with," he stopped, sensing the tension. "What's going on here?" Tracy and Martin exchanged a glance, a silent agreement to keep Ned in the dark, for now. "Nothing you need to worry about," Tracy said smoothly. "Just a little legal matter Martin's handling." Ned's eyes flicked between them, unconvinced. "Right. Because you two are always so chummy. If this is about ELQ, I deserve to know." "It's not about ELQ," Martin said, a little too quickly. "It's personal." Ned crossed his arms, his skepticism palpable. "Personal. Sure. Just don't let your personal drama tank the company, Martin. We've got enough problems." As Ned turned to leave, Tracy called after him. "Ned, stay out of the Metro Court tonight, will you? I need to handle something there." Ned frowned but nodded, clearly sensing there was more to the story. Once he was gone, Tracy turned back to Martin. "Tonight," she said, "we find Ronnie. We end this." The Metro Court was buzzing that evening, its sleek bar and restaurant filled with Port Charles's elite. Carly Corinthos moved through the crowd, her smile professional but strained. She'd been on edge lately, with Sonny's latest business dealings casting a shadow over their fragile peace. Ronnie was at the piano, his fingers dancing over the keys, drawing admiring glances from the patrons. He was a natural performer, his charisma masking the mystery that clung to him like a second skin. Martin and Tracy arrived separately, blending into the crowd. Tracy, in a tailored black dress, looked every bit the Quartermain matriarch, while Martin hovered near the bar, his nerves fraying with every note Ronnie played. They'd agreed to approach him after his set, to avoid a scene, but the waiting was agony. Carly approached Martin, her eyes sharp. "You're looking jumpy, Martin. Something I should know about?" "Just enjoying the music," he said, forcing a smile. "Ronnie's quite the talent." Carly nodded, her gaze lingering on Ronnie. "He's a draw, that's for sure. But there's something about him. I can't put my finger on it. Like he's hiding something." Martin's heart skipped a beat. "You're imagining things, Carly. He's just a musician." "Maybe," she said, unconvinced. "But in this town, nobody's just anything." As Ronnie finished his set to polite applause, Tracy made her move. She approached the piano, her smile all charm and calculation. "Ronnie, darling, that was marvelous. Care to join me for a drink? I'd love to discuss a private matter." Ronnie's eyes flickered with curiosity, but he nodded. "Sure, Ms. Quartermain. Lead the way." They moved to a secluded corner of the restaurant, Martin trailing behind. Once seated, Tracy wasted no time. "Ronnie, let's cut to the chase. We know who you are." Ronnie's smile faltered, but only for a moment. "I'm not sure what you mean. I'm just a guy who plays piano." "Don't play coy with me," Tracy said, her voice low and dangerous. "You're Edward Quartermain's grandson. And we need to know what you're planning." Ronnie's expression hardened, and for the first time, Martin saw a glimpse of the steel beneath his charm. "So, you know," he said quietly. "I wondered how long it would take." "You knew?" Martin asked, stunned. Ronnie leaned back, his gaze steady. "I've known for years. My mother told me before she died. She said Edward wanted nothing to do with us, that we were a mistake. But I came to Port Charles to see for myself. To understand who I am." Tracy's eyes narrowed. "And what do you want? Money? Power? A seat at the Quartermain table?" Ronnie laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "I don't want your money. I want answers. I want to know why my mother was abandoned, why I grew up with nothing while you all live like kings. I want the truth." "The truth," Tracy echoed, her tone mocking. "The truth is, you're a complication we don't need. But we're prepared to make this worth your while to stay quiet." Ronnie's jaw tightened. "You think you can buy me off? I'm not here to be silenced. I'm here to be seen." Martin leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Ronnie, listen. This doesn't have to end badly. We can work together, figure out a way to..." "To what?" Ronnie interrupted. "Pretend I don't exist? I'm done hiding. I'm a Quartermain, whether you like it or not." The words hung in the air, a challenge that neither Tracy nor Martin could ignore. Before they could respond, a shadow fell over the table. Sonny Corinthos stood there, his presence commanding and dangerous. "Trouble?" Sonny asked, his eyes flicking between the three of them. Tracy forced a smile. "Just a friendly chat, Sonny. Nothing to concern you." Sonny's gaze settled on Ronnie, and Martin felt a chill. If Sonny got involved, things would spiral out of control. "Good," Sonny said. "Because I don't like surprises in my town." As Sonny walked away, Tracy leaned in, her voice a whisper. "This isn't over, Ronnie. You want to play Quartermain? Be ready for the consequences." The days that followed were a whirlwind. Tracy and Martin worked to contain the fallout, but the secret was a ticking time bomb. Ned began to suspect something was amiss, especially after overhearing a cryptic conversation between Tracy and Monica. Alexis, true to form, picked up on the tension and started digging, her instincts leading her closer to the truth. Meanwhile, Ronnie continued his performances at the Metro Court, his presence a constant reminder of the storm brewing. Martin wrestled with his conscience. He'd wanted to protect the Quartermains, but at what cost? Ronnie was family, and denying him his birthright felt wrong. Yet Tracy's warnings echoed in his mind. Port Charles was a dangerous place for secrets, and Ronnie's claim could ignite a war. One evening, Martin found Ronnie alone at the pier, staring out at the water. The younger man looked weary, the weight of his identity bearing down on him. "You didn't have to tell her," Ronnie said without turning. "You could have kept my secret." "I had to," Martin said. "For your sake as much as theirs. You don't know what you're walking into." Ronnie turned, his eyes fierce. "I know exactly what I'm walking into. I've spent my whole life on the outside, Martin. I'm done being invisible." Martin sighed, knowing there was no easy resolution. "Just be careful, Ronnie. Tracy doesn't play games she can't win." Ronnie's smile was bittersweet. "Neither do I." As Martin walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd set something unstoppable in motion. Port Charles was about to change, and whether it was for better or worse, only time would tell. The Quartermain mansion loomed in the distance, its lights a beacon in the gathering dusk. Inside, Tracy was already plotting her next move, her mind racing with strategies to protect her family's legacy. But Ronnie was no ordinary adversary. He was blood, and in Port Charles, blood always told. The story continued to unfold, with alliances shifting and secrets unraveling. Ronnie's presence drew the attention of other key players: Laura Spencer, who sensed a deeper connection to the Quartermains, Michael Corinthos, who saw a potential ally or threat, and Valentine Cassadine, whose interest in Ronnie hinted at a larger agenda. Each conversation, each confrontation, added layers to the drama as Martin and Tracy navigated the fallout of the confession. By the time the truth reached Monica, the emotional core of the Quartermaine family, the mansion became a battleground of loyalties. Monica, torn between her love for Edward's memory and her compassion for Ronnie, demanded answers. Tracy, ever the pragmatist, pushed for control, while Martin found himself caught between duty and empathy. In the end, Ronnie's true intentions remained unclear. Was he a prodigal son seeking his place, or a wild card with a hidden agenda? The answer would shape the future of Port Charles, but one thing was certain: Martin's confession had opened a Pandora's box, and no one would emerge unscathed. The opulent penthouse apartment, a testament to Martin Gray's success and carefully cultivated image, was usually a sanctuary of quiet luxury. Tonight, however, the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy, thick with the unspoken words that had been accumulating for weeks, a low-pressure system building between its two occupants. Tracy Quartermaine stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, a crystal tumbler of amber whiskey clutched in her hand, her reflection a stark, elegant silhouette against the glittering tapestry of Port Charles at night. She wasn't seeing the city lights, she was seeing the myriad of small, inexplicable cracks that had recently appeared in the foundation of her relationship with Martin. Martin watched her from the doorway of the study, his own heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He loved this woman with a ferocity that still surprised him. Tracy, with her razor-sharp wit, her unwavering loyalty to her family, no matter how much she protested otherwise, and the surprising vulnerability she showed only to him. He had built a life with her, a life he had never dared to imagine for himself, a life of respectability and genuine affection. And he was standing on the precipice of obliterating it all with a single confession. "You've been quiet tonight, Martin," Tracy said, her voice cutting through the stillness without her turning around. It was a statement, not an accusation, but it carried the weight of one. "More than usual. Is it the Creighton Clark case? I heard the judge is being particularly obstinate." Martin forced a smile she couldn't see. "No, darling. The judge is just doing his job, however inconveniently." "It's nothing." Tracy finally turned, her eyes, sharp and perceptive, scanning his face. "It doesn't look like nothing. It looks like a man carrying the weight of the world. Or at least the weight of a particularly burdensome secret." She took a slow sip of her whiskey, her gaze never leaving his. "We're too old for this, Martin. For these games. If something is wrong, just say it." This was his moment. The exit ramp was right there. He could make up a story about a difficult client, a financial worry, anything to preserve the fragile peace of the evening. He could cross the room, take her in his arms, and let the lie settle between them, another small layer of sediment on the bedrock of their relationship. But he knew, with a sickening certainty, that he couldn't. The secret had become a corrosive agent, eating away at him from the inside. The man known as Ronnie had seen to that. His mere presence in Port Charles was a ticking time bomb, and Martin could not allow Tracy to be blindsided by the explosion. "It's not a client," Martin said, his voice low and gravelly. He moved further into the room, feeling like a man walking the plank. He poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon, not for the taste, but for the liquid courage. His hand trembled slightly, the crystal decanter clinking against the rim of the glass. Tracy's eyes tracked the movement, her expression growing more concerned. "Then what is it?" she asked, her tone softening from its initial sharpness to one of genuine worry. "Martin, you're starting to scare me. Is it your health? Have you seen a doctor?" "No, it's not my health," he said, managing a weak, grateful smile for her concern. "At least, not my physical health." He gestured toward the large, plush sofa. "Tracy, please. Sit down."